Fourth, back here with another awesome topic this week for the stream. We're going to be talking about avoiding burnout. We actually did something kind of similar a few weeks ago when we talked about social media use and kind of avoiding burnout with, using Instagram, YouTube X, TikTok, all of the above. And that was a pretty cool one, but we're going to kind of expand upon that a little bit and make this one more about specifically, creatives making music, doing that sort of thing. So it's not so much on the social media side, it's going to be more of avoiding burnout just in general as a music maker. So a few articles once again this week. The one we're going to be tackling the most or going over is by eMastered. There's a couple others though. DK Music Business Academy had a cool article that I'm going to link in the YouTube description, and BPM Music blog also had a good one. But this eMastered one I think is probably the most in-depth one. It's called How to Avoid Burnout as a Music Producer. And again, as always, I tend to find ones that they can apply not just to producers, they can apply to pretty much anyone. So this is pretty similar to that, where it's not just going to apply to producers, even though it's directed at producers. This can apply to pretty much any music maker. So it says in the intro, I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm scared of burnout. Will I one day get tired of being a musician? Will my creativity dwindle into nothing? Can I keep going? The truth is, I can't predict the future, but I can control what I do and don't do today to keep myself inspired and energized. In this post, we'll look at 8 methods for avoiding burnout and how other artists have used them to keep going. And by the way, this article is written by Caleb J. Murphy. So shout out to Caleb J. Murphy for writing this article. It was published in September of 2023, so it's not too old. It's about a year and a half old. But I think this one has a lot of good points, so let's get right to it. The first point is to take a break. So sometimes avoiding burnout looks like snuffing out a flame for a bit, or at least pouring a dash of water on the fire so you can conserve your energy. Sonny Rollins, a famous jazz saxophonist who played with Miles Davis, Dizzy Gillespie, and Thelonious Monk, knows how to pace himself. His career started in the 40s, and as of this writing, he's still going strong. But back in the 60s and 70s, he set down the woodwind, traveled to Asia, studied meditation, yoga, and some Eastern philosophies. I'm not saying we should all do this, but we can learn from it. Rollins took a break, and that helped him keep going. More recently, Ed Sheeran took a break in 2015. My plan is to get rid of my iPhone, get rid of the internet, get a Nokia 3310, and just go off into the wilderness somewhere for a bit. He said, even if it's just a month without contact with other people. It ended up being about a year, and he returned with an album and now massive song Shape of You. So for the sake of your career, don't be scared to take a break if you need to. I think I mentioned this in a stream a few weeks ago. My break wasn't super long, but last year, for the first time in a while, I actually took an entire week and didn't make any music. And that's something I hadn't done for about 8 years straight. I usually tend to make at least 1 or 2 ideas a day, no matter if it's small or a full, song fleshed out. But I took a whole week. I ended up going to Orlando on a trip with my brother. I just left my computer at home, didn't even take it on the trip. And I honestly thought it was going to be tough and going to be somewhat of an adjustment, but believe it or not, it actually was okay. And when I got back the next week, I just picked it up like nothing else happened. And I think a lot of that has to go with, the years I put in to kind of build the muscle memory of being able to just come back to it like it's nothing. So it really wasn't a big deal. I feel like if you're just starting out, it might be a little more difficult to take those breaks and then come back to it. I think you kind of have to ask yourself the question of, is it something that you've been doing long enough where you feel comfortable with taking those breaks. So ask yourself that question first. And just, if you feel confident in your ability to come back and still be as strong as you were before, go ahead. But even if you're not, even if you are a little bit worrisome, trust me from my own experience, you're going to be just fine. Even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment, it might feel uncomfortable to do so because, in the back of our minds, we always think we're missing out on something, like what they call that FOMO, fear of missing out. That's kind of what it is. I actually didn't really feel that way though, even though I thought I was going to, because I was able to just enjoy the trip and just enjoy just living life, you know what I mean, and realize that creativity is a part of our life, but it's not everything in our life. So we have to be able to set it aside every now and then and take time to do other things. And obviously, according to this article, these couple musicians, they took more than just a week. They took a year, a couple years. So it's really just whatever you decide. It is your life at the end of the day. And you're on your own schedule. You're not competing with other people. You're really just doing your own thing at the end of the day. So if financially you can afford to do things like that, by all means, I think it's a great opportunity to just have a new experience and live, like I said, live life and come back stronger than ever when you do return. So I think that's super important. Next up is take care of yourself. The idea of taking a break is a natural segue into the need to take care of yourself. If you take time away from music, but all you do is unhealthy things, what's the point? And I'm talking about both physical and mental health. Paul McCartney understands the power of meditation. I think meditation is great, he said. I think it's always very good to get a sort of still moment in your day. Whenever I have a chance in my busy schedule, I'll do it. If I'm not rushing out the door with some crazy stuff to do. But yeah, I always like to take a moment and just meditate. It's a good thing. Each person will have different things that keep them physically and mentally healthy, but here are some general self-care methods you can try. Number 1, meditate for 5 minutes a day. Use the Headspace app. I've heard good things about Headspace. I try to do this in the morning. Maybe not strictly just meditate, but just have like a moment of kind of reflection before I get my day started. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 10. It's just whatever kind of I just catch in the moment and just run with it. That's kind of what I like to do. Journaling, so writing things down. We've talked a lot about writing things down, the importance of that. So if you do, it could be on your computer, could be on your phone, or it could just be traditional pen and paper, whatever you want to keep a journal. Exercising, starting out light, especially if you hate working out. We've talked about going on walks, how that can benefit you. Go ahead and do that, or whatever else that you feel comfortable with. Get enough sleep. Again, we've talked about this too, the sleep schedule. Hopefully 8 hours, if not somewhere in the 6 to 8 range is usually pretty good. You just want to make sure you're trying to be as consistent as possible with that. Hanging out with friends, that's something that I know can be difficult, especially when you're older. When you get older, you don't see your friends as much. I can definitely relate to that. I feel like I don't see my friends a lot these days. We do communicate through our group chat and just, virtually, but we're not always hanging out all the time. Just do your best. I mean, there's really only so much you can do. People move away. People have their own lives as well. So you just got to do the best you can there, because that's not really in your control. It is, but it's not. You control, you control you showing up, but you can't always control other people being involved. So just do your best. Read a book. I'm definitely a big books person. I need to get back on reading books because I'd say from like 2020 until probably 2023, I was reading at least one or two books a year. I've been kind of falling off of that. I really need to get back to that. Maybe I'll start back with audiobooks soon and just pick a book and kind of get lost in that, because reading has always been something I enjoy. And that might not be for everybody, but if you enjoy reading, definitely consider that. And finally, write down 3 things you're thankful for. That could kind of even be tied back to the vision boards, mood boards that we've talked about before, and just like visual manifestation. When you see those things, like you could say them, but when you see them, it's almost more powerful to write them down and visualize them and then understand them in a new way. Next up is say no. As a creative person, it can be hard to say no, especially if you have so many project ideas bouncing around in your head. It's really difficult to stop working on something you started. Sometimes you just know you can't spin that many plates at once. Plus, dropping or giving less time to a secondary project will allow you more brain space and energy to devote to your passion project. And if you stop working on a project, that doesn't mean you can't pick it up later. It's all about prioritizing your work, and often involves the word no. Super, super vital. Something that I learned a lot in the different workshops I've done for music creators and the different education that I've invested in is that power of pretty much just being able to feel comfortable with saying no. And as someone who definitely has their hand in a lot of projects, whether it's my own stuff or producing for others or doing the podcast, all these things, I've definitely had instances where someone offers me some type of opportunity, and sometimes I have to say no because I just don't have time in the schedule to be able to do it, or I try to find an alternative, like moving a date or figuring something else out. A lot of what I like to do, especially if it's a project, if it's something I feel like I just can't contribute to, or I just don't have time, I try to kind of recommend someone else that I feel like will do a good job in that scenario. So if someone wants like a song produced, a certain type of style, if I know someone else that I feel like would do a good job, I'll recommend them that person. And they don't have to reach out to them, but I feel better doing that than just kind of leaving them hanging. I don't like to just leave people by saying no and then that's it. I'll at least try to like direct you to someone that might be able to help you. So keep that in mind too. I mean, it's not always just saying no and just being like stern about it, but if you have some type of solution to that problem that person has, they'll appreciate it, even if you're not going to be the one directly to solve it or help out. So keep that in mind. I think that goes a long way too. Next up, we have do more than one project at a time. It says, wait, didn't I just suggest doing less? I literally just said you should say no and think about dropping a non-essential project. Yes, I did say that, but that doesn't mean you can't have more than one thing going on at a time. In a TED Radio Hour podcast episode, economist and journalist Tim Harford says doing multiple projects at once in the long run is good for you. You'll create more and better art. He calls this slow motion multitasking. He talks about how both Einstein and Darwin did their best work while doing many other things. Einstein was working on the theories of Brownian motion, special relativity, and the photoelectric effect, and good old E equals MC squared all at the same time. Darwin was writing several research papers when he uncovered the theory of evolution. The point is, it can be good to have different projects for you to jump between. If you get stuck writing a song, you can work on your lo-fi hip-hop side project. If the creative juice runs dry in any recording studio, you can refill by playing a concert. The big benefit of slow motion multitasking is that your creativity constantly flows. Definitely, like I said, I can relate to that a ton because I have my hands in a lot of things and I've kind of expanded it over the years, whether it is working on my albums, producing someone else's song, putting together playlists, making social media content, the podcast, the list goes on. It's ever evolving, it's ever changing. But I always feel good as long as it's something that, you know, kind of feeds me and can feed other people too, in a way. And I never like to be involved in things that I feel like can't do both. So like no matter what it is, I'm usually open to it. It just has to be something that I feel like can benefit myself and others. But as long as it does that, I mean, the more power to you to be able to create more. So I definitely agree with that. Next up is build a community. Can't do this whole music thing on your own. As much as I don't like accepting help from others, I need it. That's why it's so important to have a creative community. One of the good things about globalization is it has created a single international music community, The Edge told BBC, and I feel very much a part of it. So if you're a songwriter, go meet other songwriters at an open mic. If you're a DJ or a performer, go to a local show and introduce yourself to the artist. Just find other like-minded, curious people you get along with, even if they don't do the same things as you. And yeah, we've talked before about, you know, collaboration, networking, doing it virtually, doing it in person. Both can be effective. Just being able to reach out to others, communicate with others in the right way. I've talked about putting your best foot forward, being the one to initiate any type of collaboration, not waiting for people to come to you, because you're never going to get things done if you're just always waiting for people to come to you. You got to be comfortable enough to put yourself out there and go to these people, like really start putting these ideas in motion, and just get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Because I promise you that is the biggest way I've been able to do anything I've done, is by not waiting around for everything to come to me. Things will come to you for sure, but you can initiate so much more if you're going out looking for these opportunities, looking for these people to connect with. So definitely keep that in mind too. Next up, outsource what you can. Nowadays, artists are expected to do so much more than just create art. We're supposed to be our own manager, PR person, social media expert, album designer, and sometimes mixing and mastering engineer. It can get a little overwhelming at times. That's why it may be a good idea to delegate tasks. Boy, do I hate when calls come in and interrupt the stream. I really got to start turning that off. Anyways, it can get a little overwhelming at times. That's why it may be a good idea to delegate tasks to either friends in your community, barter skills with each other, or to be a hired hand. One thing you can easily outsource is the mastering process. You can have eMastered, and this is them plugging their service because this is eMastered. They're telling you basically, you know, sign up for eMastered for mastering. I'm not going to go into that whole thing, whatever, you get the idea. But, yeah, we've touched on outsourcing a little bit. I think on the social media one that we did about how you can hire a a VA, virtual assistant, and they can kind of help guide you on certain creative processes. You have to find somebody specifically, like if you're trying to do social media, you need to find somebody who has experience in social media content creation, specifically, hopefully, artistic. They've worked with artists, they've worked with labels or management of some sort. So they have an idea of what you're going to be doing, and they can help you out. But you can hire a VA for a lot of other things too. And then, yeah, just like you need artwork created, nothing's wrong with hitting up a graphic designer to have them work on your artwork. You want something to be edited, send it to an editor, whatever. My buddy Dom, who has booked a lot of my podcast guests over the last year and a half at this point, that's what he does. He's a PR guy, but he works with a lot of different types of artists, and he gets them opportunities. That's kind of how we got connected. He was looking for, different podcasts to have his artists featured on, and it's been a great relationship. I've been able to meet a lot of cool people that work with Dom through that whole thing, and that's what he does. He gets them opportunities in any type of media, written media, visual media, all that good stuff. Reach out to people like that. Make sure it's someone trustworthy and someone who's actually legitimate. So vet the person, obviously, but if you can find the right person, that type of thing goes a long way. So and lastly, well, no, I think we have two more things, but the next one, it says enjoy others' music or other music. Because I make music all the time, I find it easy to forget about enjoying music. And I'm talking about sitting down with a nice pair of headphones and really enjoying music. No comparing myself to the artist. No attempt to dissect how they do what they do. It's good to just listen to music and let it move through you. I've heard a lot about artists, musicians having fatigue. Like, a lot of artists say they don't listen to music. All they listen to is podcasts. I surprisingly have not reached that level yet. I still am a huge fan of music. I'm still discovering new artists all the time. And I still feel like I listen to a lot of music, even though I don't have as much time as I probably used to do to listen to music. I still feel like I'm listening to quite a bit of music, whether it's in the car or on the weekend if I have more free time. Whatever it is. I still feel like I'm more active now than I've ever been with just being a fan, you know what I mean? And like it says, not trying to compare myself, not trying to even dissect anything, just enjoy it and receive it as, someone with that unbiased opinion or anything like that. So I think for me that's still been the gift of the whole thing, is still being able to find the roots of where my love for music came from, which was from other artists, enjoying their art. So hopefully I never lose that, because that would be a shame, but I know everybody's experience with that is a little bit different. So, and finally, this is the final point. It says, remember how far you've come. The final and most important tip I have is this: remember how far you've come. Don't compare your accomplishments to another artist's. Compare your accomplishments to what your goals were in the past. Think of where you were last year or 5 years ago. How are you better at what you do today than when you first started? Try this. Write down the things you've done over the last year that you are proud of. Also write down how you've improved as an artist. Once you see this list getting longer and longer, you'll find yourself encouraged and ready to face the threat of burnout for another day. So that is that. And I love the way that closes off. Basically just saying, do you today, focus on what you can focus on now, and don't look too far ahead, but appreciate what you did before. You know what I mean? Just be able to have an appreciation for all the hard work you put in, and just being able to see kind of the fruits of your labor, finally pay off. And it's something that never ends. We're always trying to do better. We're always trying to get better. And I think that's just the journey of this whole thing, is that it never truly comes to any conclusion or finale or anything like that. It's just a journey, and it just continues on. But we have to just keep evolving and doing our best every single day. But yeah, I think that article was the best one, personally, of the three that I found. Like I said, I'm going to put the other two in the YouTube replay description, so definitely check those out. All great reads. But But I wanted to just kind of expand on that idea of what we talked about with social media a few weeks ago, and just kind of expand it to musicianship in general and what it means to be a creative, kind of facing those problems. So that was that. We're at about 25 minutes, so pretty perfect timing to get wrapped up here. Next week on March 11th, I'm going to be going over beat selling platforms. So this one is specifically for producers. If you're someone that is an artist or anybody else who wants to know how to sell beats or where, it's not really how to sell beats, it's going to be more of where to sell beats. So we'll be talking about my experience with selling beats on certain platforms and just kind of covering the main ones that are the big ones right now as it stands in 2025. What the price of these platforms are to use them, to be a user who sells things. We're just going to be kind of diving into that topic because I think it's something that is pretty important and something I've been asked about being a BeatStars user specifically. Like, what has my experience been, using BeatStars for 5 years now. So I'll be touching on a little bit of all that, but that is next Tuesday, March 11th. Same time, same place. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully this one kind of stands, I don't know about stands the test of time, but hopefully people come back to this one and, kind of take from it what they will and so on and so forth. But thanks again for tuning in. So we'll see you on March 11th next week. Stay safe, stay blessed. You know the deal at this point. Thanks again, guys. Have a safe, great week. We'll see you then. Just peace out.